Hey everyone, anyone that's in the live chat, we're just about to start here. Just getting all the final things going. We just want to hit the live stream because we didn't get much of a notice to everyone that when we were going to be recording here.
Hi everybody.
You gotta love the fact that we're so warm. I mean, for people on the East Coast, you know, they may not want to hear that, but we're still so unseasonably warm that we can still have motorcycles driving outside of our window. And of course, right when we're getting ready to record. All right, so yeah, everyone that's in the chat, welcome. We're just about to start the first roundtable for 2018. Yes, it is 2018 now. I have to keep making sure I don't say the wrong date. Okay. You okay over there?
Yeah, sorry, I'm typing out a status for Facebook because I forgot to put one up last night when we talked.
Yeah, we didn't have the full time hammered out here, so yeah, we're looking probably get started here, Peter. Just
YouTube.com/Dark Tower Palaver.
Yep. And if people are subscribed, you would have got a notification letting you know that we were starting. But I guess we already failed in our attempt of letting people know in advance when we were going to record. But we can bounce back and do that on the next episode and be better about that.
We have all year to be better.
This one was just a little bit helter-skelter in terms of like when we were going to record and stuff. I don't even think that we knew up until like I texted you like, yeah, anytime. Like I don't think we have like a time pin down even.
I think we picked a time of day. Afternoon sometime? Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
We need to be better.
All right, so we'll go ahead and hit the intro real quick and then start into the new year 2018 for some Dark Tower Palaver. We'll yeah, I don't know, really excited about what we have coming down the pike here. Got some fun stuff, got some more book clubs as we're in the middle of book 2 now. Well, the beginning of book 2 still, but
the best part of book 2.
The only part you care about because you're biased.
I'm not biased, he's just the best.
All right, we'll hit the intro real quick, and then we'll get started.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed.
Go then. There are other worlds than these.
Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are quartet, one from many. The palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's Magnum Opus, the Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for roundtable number 50.
50.
Yeah, that's a big one. We ended up ending the year on a kind of the oddball number. But yeah, here we are at this juncture when it comes to number 50. So that's a big milestone for at least for the roundtable perspective. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Kind of a cool number to start on for the new year too. So now we can always just calculate out what how many roundtables we did this year with an easy glance.
Well, what anniversary are we going to have this fall? Is it our third year?
Third year. Third year. Yep.
Man,
yes, indeedy. So yeah, we're number 50, and we're going to. There isn't obviously a ton of news as much as some people might. Well, I guess you would maybe expect that it isn't. Sorry, guys, I'm just getting the slideshow fixed. There we go. Yeah, there's a ton of news, but there's a few small things I wanted to cover, and we wanted to kind of do some emails as well. Obviously, we had Chris on with a really great episode talking about his timeline. And we have something to finish up on that with the trivia question that we hung out there for you guys last time. We're going to talk about that this time. We have a couple news stories, but then we want to get into some emails, and because we still have some movie reactions, we still have some stuff to talk that we were hoping to clear up through last year to kind of start the year fresh, but. With Chris and with also just, I don't know, I can't remember what we did before that. Was it the commentary?
We did a commentary, and we also did a book club like we promised.
Yeah. With all that, it kind of threw us off to where we weren't able to get through all the emails by the end of the year. But that's no big deal because I love having discussions based on what people are either reading or seeing with the movie.
Yeah.
And so it'll carry over a little bit, but that's kind of what this episode we're going to have. And I also want to let you guys know, even before we get into our intros, so what we're planning is the next episode we're going to do a book club to get keep that fairly regular. And
Ted's finally letting me get back to Eddie. I mean, he's not going to keep me from him any longer.
And then what we are thinking is the episode after that we will do, so would it be Roundtable 51 here in a couple weeks, about 4 weeks or so?
It'll be in February, won't it?
Yeah, because we do every other week, so we got that. So what we're planning on doing is we actually want to start delving into some of the comic books. I know we've had some people talk about those, and it's honestly something in terms of Dark Tower. It's probably the most neglected thing on my end. I've read a little bit of them, but not. I never got as heavily into them. So it'll be kind of a fresh thing for both of us. It won't just be Peter that's a little bit newer on it. I mean, I think I've read a chunk of the first one, but that's about it. So, Roundtable 51, we'll start talking about the Gunslinger Born. And so that's kind of just a little bit of what we got going here in the near future. But for this episode, let's jump on into the normal stuff. First of all, we want to warn you about spoilers. If you haven't finished the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series, you may want to craft this podcast because we may spoil them. In fact, it tends to be that things like the ending or certain characters' ends may generally come up in normal conversation for us. So if you guys don't, or if you're not finished yet, you may want to cry off and stick to our book club episodes. And also with the movie, if we are going to talk about the movie, so if you haven't seen that and you're concerned about spoilers, again, probably don't want to listen to this episode.
Yeah, especially with the reaction emails. Remind me to tell you a story about spoilers, okay, for Dark Tower.
All right. Oh, well, you can go ahead now, actually.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of our coworkers stopped me the other day and asked me if we were still recording our podcast. And I was like, oh, yeah, we took a break for the holidays, and we're going to start up this weekend. He's like, oh, cool. I think I might tune in. You guys do it live? I was like, yeah, we're live on YouTube. YouTube.com/Dark Tower Palaver, in fact. And he goes, oh, yeah. What do you guys usually discuss? I was like, oh, we talk about anything, you know. We're going to be talking about what we're going to do this year and everything like that coming up, and we got a couple other things to cover, plus some emails from people that watch the movies. Like, oh, I haven't watched the movie yet. I was like, oh, why not? Just because it got like negative reviews and you've heard lots of bad things about it? He's like, yeah. Well, that, and I also haven't finished the book. So I was like, what book are you on? He's like, oh, I just started book 3. I was like, don't listen to our podcast. I was like, for the love of God, don't listen to our podcast, dude.
Yeah, that'd be a tough one that early in the series, because I'm sure that as much as, like I said, like it just seems like things like endings tend to come up in our conversations. But yeah, if you're talking about things like book 4 potentially not being covered, or I mean, because now you're talking about the past, or I don't know, book 5 being your favorite book, so those things tend to come up. So. Yeah, so that's with the spoilers. That's our spoiler warning. Also, if you guys want to find us, you can do that any number of ways. We're on iTunes. You can stream us on Stitcher. You can find us on basically any podcast service that's available. You can also, if you could be so kind as to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes. That helps the show quite a bit. We have seen some new reviews on there. We definitely appreciate that. Also, you can find the show notes, and I actually am still in the midst of rebuilding the website, so just check the notes within the podcast that you're listening to. There's a little note section on your podcast service. Find that for the URL for the show notes. Currently, I'm rebuilding darktowerpalaver.com from the ground up, so it's just a temporary site for now to find the show notes. And also, if you want to contact us and be part of the Palaver, as this episode is going to have ample examples of, Peter can tell you the best way to do that.
Best way to reach us is through email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. Like I said earlier, we're also going to be on Facebook. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And you can also interact with mainly Tad on Twitter, because I don't have Twitter anymore. I got rid of it. It's at Dark Tower Pod. That's at Dark Tower POD. We stream live, and we also have a catalog of some older shows now on youtube.com/Dark Tower Palaver. So you can pull up and see if we ever have anything. For instance, good example is last episode with Chris. We had images for his timeline that he was on to talk about. And we had that up. So if you want to see as well as hear us, you can do that on youtube.com/Dark Tower Palaver.
Indeed. And Sawyer's in the chat here, and he's asking if we'd heard anything about the planned TV series. No, there hasn't been a lot of news on that. I actually was digging pretty hard prepping for this episode, seeing if I could find anything. But no, everything still seems to be just the announcement of the showrunner, the guy from The Walking Dead. I'm blanking on his name right now. But that's really all. I'm like every time I'm searching, that's all I'm finding. And then I think there is some remarks from him where he mentions that, it's going to be stuff encompassing book 4, book 1, which I'm guessing the book 1 stuff will be the flashback material. And I want to say that he even said went through the keyhole, so we might be seeing some of that mixed in there. But that's really all that's all I've really found is him saying that, and the announcement of him. Nothing else going on in terms of that I can see. I'm gonna definitely keep my ear to the ground and try to continue finding new information on that. Whether it be, casting or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, casting will probably be bigger news, but, whatever it might be. But, yeah, just nothing yet.
Sawyer gave us the guy's name, Glenn...
Mazzaro. Yeah.
Mazzaro?
Yeah, I knew it was like Glenn, but I couldn't remember I always forget his last name. That'll be something that I'll be learning here in the next little bit as we're talking more about the show, hopefully. I can't help but look around the landscape, though, and definitely see things like Netflix, or not Netflix, it was Amazon paying $1 billion for Lord of the Rings to create a TV show based around that franchise. It feels like everyone's trying to find, basically now it's being called, like, everyone wants to find their Game of Thrones. Because Game of Thrones is obviously shown hugely successful for HBO, and now they're talking about multiple spin-offs. So I think everyone wants to find that huge property.
Yeah, who doesn't want to make money?
Yeah. So, and like I can't help but think that, like, man, if you want a property like that, you should be looking at the Dark Tower series, because there's a lot going on here. There's a lot in this series. And I mean, it connects to a lot of other things too, but I just feel like it's definitely something that could easily give someone, 8 to 10 seasons of television if they really wanted to go full bore on it.
Do you feel that the success of Westworld has probably hurt the chances of HBO looking at Dark Tower seriously?
HBO, I don't know. I mean, Westworld maybe in the fact that it's similar, in the fact that it has a huge budget, the fact that they're spending so much money on that, on Game of Thrones, things like that. I would say maybe hurt it, just in terms of, because this would probably be hopefully a big budget.
Well, I just mean like the Western aspect, especially if we're doing the TV show, which is based off of book 4, which is largely, I mean, we get a lot of old West feel from book 4. I just wonder if they wouldn't look at Dark Tower seriously because they have Westworld, which is supposed to be like largely set in the Old West as well.
Well, I don't think that would necessarily deter them, because I mean, if Westworld's been successful, I think that it just shows that whereas we talked so much going into the movie that the Westerns are considered dead in Hollywood, I would say that that's the absolute opposite when it comes to television. I mean, between shows like there's one on Netflix. It's a Western. I'm blanking on the name of it. There's one on there. There wasn't the one with Timothy Oliphant, also a Western.
That's set in Wyoming, but it's more modern.
Oh,
so,
that one is.
It's kind of still Western.
But no, there is some Western shows out there, though. I mean, Deadwood being one that from a little while ago. Westworld feeling. I mean, I know it's sci-fi, but it like has that Western feel to it.
Right.
I feel like in general, Westerns aren't as.
That's
Sawyer saying godless. That might be the show I'm thinking of. I just know there's a few shows out there that are Western, so I feel like Westerns are still thriving on television,
which makes me hopeful for that someone will pick up the Dark Tower on a streaming service, which is what my ideal would be, is like a Hulu or a Netflix or something.
Because like Hulu's in the Stephen King business. But now.
I just had this thought the other day where I was talking to one of my friends about Westworld. He's like, "Oh man, you got to give Westworld a try. If you really like Game of Thrones, you got to try Westworld. It's like sci-fi mixed with Western, mixed with adventure, mixed with mystery." And I was just like, wait, is he describing Dark Tower? And so it just kind of got me thinking, like, oh no, are they too similar that they're going to be like, we already have that show. Let's not even look at that one.
No, because I think that, like, I watched the first episode, and it was one of those ones where I just kind of had the feeling that, like, my mind wasn't ready for something that I wasn't ready to give it enough attention to it, so I stopped watching. Not necessarily because I didn't like it, but because I'm like, I don't want to like watch it with half a mind. Like,
right.
I want to be able to like full on delve into it and just totally nerd out, because that's what this show deserves. I could tell.
Yeah, you've always been one of those people that we've talked about this before, where you're not one that's sitting on your phone or playing a game on your tablet or something like that when you watch a movie. When you watch a movie, you're fully engrossed into it.
Yeah.
Phone goes down, tablet goes off, computer goes off, and you're watching.
Yeah. And like even a further step than that with this, though, I'm just talking like mentally. There's so much other stuff that I was like watching and nerding out on and like just delving into that. Like I was just like, I know that if I watch this right now, I'm gonna half-ass it, and like I could tell from the make of the show, even with just the one episode I watched, that it's a show that deserves my full attention. So
gotcha.
and like honestly, it was a week-to-week show, and there was part of it that was like, that works out too, because now I won't have to wait between episodes. I just haven't circled back to watch it yet, but no, I think that one, it's basically like I don't know if it's virtual. I'm trying to remember now. It's been a while since I watched that episode, but it's like it's set in the future. It's more of like, and the Western element is like a
fantasy.
I think it's more of like a virtual reality-ish type, like so it's more futuristic, whereas like Dark Tower is like a Western with like spices of futuristic. This one's like futuristic with spices of Western, so I don't think they're that close.
I just worry that some executive's going to look at that and just go, nah, that's too close. I mean, I can see it happening, but the big thing is that I'm happy then is that if someone, like what you're talking about, is if they're different enough that someone could look at it and go, well, that's pretty close to Westworld, but it is a little bit different. We should go down that route.
Yeah.
And then that cheered me up.
Yeah.
I was just bummed that I was just like, man, I really don't know if HBO would go for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about HBO, but nowadays you got, like I said, you got Amazon, you got Hulu, which Hulu is doing a lot with Stephen King, between Castle Rock, 11/22/63, like this. They're doing, they're kind of in the Stephen King business. Netflix now with Gerald's Game and 1922.
They also just had another one, 1922 or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that one you said?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That. Yeah. So we got that. I mean, so it just feels like in general, Stephen King, he's definitely everywhere.
Some love.
I mean, even like I just during the course of yesterday, I binged the entire show of Mr. Mercedes, and it's one of those ones where I was just like, oh yeah, this is like on like, I think it's like Audience Channel or something, which is a DirecTV exclusive channel. And like, so now you're even talking like something that's a little bit more out of the norm.
Yeah,
but even that, they like finance it and stuff. And I guess like I'll just take this like few minutes to like give kind of an aside. I kind of had an epiphany. Like if you've read the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, like I wasn't sure what to expect necessarily. Like I watched some of the pre-production stuff, like to see like the actors and stuff. I knew that like Anton Yelchin was cast in the role of Brady Hartsfield before he was tragically killed. But like I wasn't sure, like, are they going to embrace some of the more shocking / strange elements that just very Stephen King. There's some stuff that you could easily see them just go, no, we don't want to risk going down that far down this path, and then maybe just skipping elements of the story that weren't even necessarily massively crucial to the whole thing. But I will say, while watching that, they did not shy away. There's some stuff in there that's like, if you've read the books, you know what I'm talking about. There's some really bizarre things, and also even just the violence and the gore. They weren't shying away from that stuff either. And I just kind of had an epiphany where it's just like, I think I'm finally starting to understand a little bit. And there's actually an article that kind of helped, and so we'll get to it in a few minutes too, about Stephen King's perspective. But I realized, like, whereas like with Dark Tower, like I almost feel like maybe the filmmakers shied away from the bizarre nature of the Dark Tower,
and also the violence too,
and the violence. Yeah, they like, whereas they kind of like, I mean, like this is on record, like that I enjoyed the film, but like overall I could kind of see where maybe I was having a hard time totally grasping what people are saying, because I was looking at it so pragmatically of like how you make a successful movie from the perspective of Hollywood. But yeah, like I feel like maybe if they had embraced some of the weirdness and some of the violence a little bit more, if nothing else, it probably would have had the even if it would have tanked the box office, the fans would have probably got behind it more.
It would have made a more unique film and it
would have been
that people would have loved more, to be like, well, you guys just don't get it. It's a Dark Tower thing. Us fans could have been like, well, it's just a Dark Tower thing. It's a unique series. Until you read it, you don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But what they like what you just said, it's really opening my eyes with what you just said. I want to read this article that you're talking about.
Yeah,
is that they absolutely did go a safe route. They made a PG-13 action movie.
Yeah, and one that in a lot of ways feels like movies that we've seen before.
Yeah,
Dark Tower really is one that could feel like something unlike we've ever seen before. Even with things like Westworld existing and stuff, like Dark Tower, if it fully embraced the kingness of it, it would have been something that would have just been out there. Now with this year, with Hollywood being one of the worst years in like a 30-year history, box office numbers, doesn't mean that it would have been successful, but it may have at least been potentially liked more by critics, and it may have been liked more obviously by fans. It's just an epiphany I had. I know that we've had people kind of arguing some of these things and saying some of these things, but I think it's sometimes like the switch didn't just flip in my mind, I guess, until watching like almost, because like I know people are comparing like to It, where they're like, oh well, like see It, like like this, and then comparing like why was It successful versus Dark Tower wasn't. But like I don't feel that there was anything in It that really flipped that switch for me. Like I don't think there was anything that was like super kingy that almost you would expect them not to do, that they did. You know what I mean? Like, because it's so cut and dry.
Yeah.
So much of it is like your standard. I mean, like, and then like with things like Stranger Things softening people up to like the idea of like kids fighting a monster, or, monsters or whatever it might be. Like, I think that's helped soften up maybe people that were unfamiliar with like the 1990 miniseries. Then the 1990 miniseries like helped people like come to like the idea of like It and stuff. So like I feel like in general there's almost nothing there isn't as much risk involved with making It, because it is so cut and dry, like just such a great horror and coming of age tale together that like it took Mr. Mercedes where I'm like, okay, there's like in my mind I'm like there's X, Y, and Z things I'm like I'm guaranteed they won't have in this. And then suddenly within the first 10 minutes like, oh shit, there's X. And then the first couple episodes, oh, there's Y. And then like, oh shit, there's Z. It's like, good Lord, they hit every fucking one of them. Like, I can't believe it.
Also with It, one thing that we may have been a little bit blinded by is that, well, there's that one scene in the book that we know is not going to make television or a movie screen. We all know this. There was talks about it in pre-production, the parents threatened to pull children and all that, rumors and everything like that. But it got to the point where we knew what we weren't going to see. So there wasn't anything overtly king in that first part of It. There's some stuff in the second part I could see, the adult part. There's some stuff in there that if they shy away from it, well, then we'll see like what we talked about with Dark Tower. Okay, well, they're trying to pull it back a little bit, make it a little bit less kingy, if that's a term we can accept, kingy as well. But it's the same thing. I was talking to you actually before we went on the air, and I'll just repeat it now. Gerald's Game was the same way on Netflix.
Yeah.
There's a part of Gerald's Game that's critical. It's a psychological kind of thriller, and she's dealing with some issues from her childhood, and there's a traumatic event, and I'm like, there's no way they're going to show it. They'll talk about it probably. There's no way they'll show it because that's a little girl. Nope, they full on showed it. I was like, what the?
Yeah.
I'm so glad that my family was not awake when I watched that movie. I did not expect that, and I did not see it coming. But it was there, and the gore was also there for Gerald's Game. It's not one where if you say Stephen King's goriest things, you're going to, The Stand and everything like that. You're not going to say Gerald's Game has a lot of gore in it. They did not shy away from the gore in that one either.
I will say one thing that it may be somewhat self-defeating at this point, but it just reminded me, I just remembered from It. The one thing I would say that I was surprised they didn't shy away from is Bev's dad.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really surprised they didn't shy away from that. I mean, they didn't go overt with it necessarily. I mean, like I feel like they walked the line really well in terms of like, is this just physical abuse or is this sexual abuse with her father? But I think there's some small indications that are a little bit more subtle that maybe show you that it's probably going the sexual route with sexual abuse from her dad.
Yeah, it looks like it's starting that route. Not that it was already there.
No, I think that even some of the stuff I saw like maybe even shows that maybe he had abused her. You know what I mean?
Oh, really?
Yeah, but again, they kept it overt so that it was like tasteful, I guess, in terms of like it wasn't. I mean, it was creepy as hell, and it made everyone uncomfortable. But they didn't like, you know what I mean? Like she doesn't tell a story about this horrible thing they had. Like it didn't go gratuitous with it.
Yeah.
But I will say that is a kingy type thing in terms of like that. Not necessarily that that's a unique thing and that doesn't happen, but the fact that to put that in a story, especially in a context of a story like this.
Yeah.
It's that's one thing that it didn't do. But in general, I feel like so much of it is almost so mainstream now. Be it through the Tim Curry one, or be it through Stranger Things helping, or just be it through the fact that
horror films of the last 20 years.
Horror films, yeah. I mean, so but in general, yeah, I think Dark Tower definitely had it would take a lot more guts to just go, hey, screw it, we're going to go kingy with this one, because
I'm liking that term.
It's the most of all of King's stuff. I'd say there's nothing that comes close to as strange and bizarre. But with the TV show, maybe we can. My hope is that we will see it go full kingy and just
maybe we'll make that turn and we'll see all that stuff in Magus with the pink ball and all that stuff, and the Thinny done properly in Eyebolt Canyon and everything.
Yeah,
Rhea.
Yeah, I know you can't wait to see her. Maybe they can cast the lady that was in The Mist.
I hate that woman so much. Yeah, that came up a couple days ago. Tad and I were talking about most hated characters in film and TV, and someone's like, "Why do you hate just a random character in The Mist?" I was like, "Dude, you just don't understand." And he's actually a father. His son just celebrated his first birthday, and he. I had him watch the scene where she tries to take the boy for a blood sacrifice. Yeah. I was like, dude, now you understand, man. He's like, I haven't seen the whole movie and I hate that bitch.
Yeah, indeed. So now after that little tangent, we'll jump on over. The first thing I wanted to do is talk about the trivia contest that we had last time with Chris.
Oh, yeah.
So with that, we threw out a little bit of a tougher question in terms of how, of a trivia question that you would have to maybe look into your books a little bit to know. It isn't just one. It wasn't going to be one like, hey, what color was Blaine the Mono? Something easy.
Pink.
Yeah, I love Blaine, man. I want.
He is pink, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to take my Dark Tower credit card today.
Never leave the cave without
it. Never leave Blaine without it. Never leave Lud without it.
Oh, I was mostly just sliding that in there to make fun of you as a Batman fan for the Bat credit card.
Oh, don't. Shut up.
Never leave the cave without it, right?
God.
Okay, so the question was, how did Calvin Tower and Aaron Deepno know to go to the laundromat and save Don Callahan? Please provide a quote from the book proving your answer. And here in the chat, Cody actually just joined us, and actually, it was Cody that actually got the answer.
Yeah,
and got it first. So, Cody, this is what he sent to us. He says, and this is a quote: "In the next couple of years, one of the men, probably Tower, would buy a ring with the word Ex Libris carved into it. Maybe how crazy was this? Because Eddie Dean himself would put the idea into Cal Tower's head, and Tower, selfish, acquisitive, miserly, book greedy Calvin Tower would save Father Callahan's life with that ring on his finger. He was going to be shit scared, Deep No too, but he was going to do it." And then Eddie whispered to Roland, "Don't forget that Tower and Deep No have an appointment at the Turtle Bay Washteria 4 years from now." So that is indeed the right answer, and that is I did read the question, right? Yes, I did. Okay. Yeah, so that's the answer to it, a little bit more obscure. But yeah, so Cody, you won that one. So if you could email your mailing address, we will get you a copy of the amazing timeline. Because I was calling it map.
I know we had that map that we looked at, and then we had the timeline that he drew.
Yeah.
So.
But it's one of those, and then he had done the map, or we had talked about that as well. And I think even last episode when we talked to him, I think I called it a map a few times. So now I'm like stuttering about wait, map or timeline? It is a timeline. So yeah, just send your address and to the email.
Don't put it in chat, Cody.
And we will get that sent out to you. So congratulations on that, and thanks, Chris, for being so generous as to give us both me and Peter a copy, and then one to give away. That's mighty kind of him. And again, for everyone, if you guys want to check the show notes, I will put it on there for the address to go buy your own copy. And I would definitely highly recommend it. I think it's
fantastic.
It's a perfect thing to add to any Dark Tower collection. So,
well, except Cody. Cody doesn't need to buy one.
Yeah. Well, he maybe wants to buy another one.
Cody, you could buy another one.
No,
have two.
But yeah, no, I definitely recommend it because again, like I was saying, a year or so ago that one of the things that I was looking forward to with the movie is to hopefully see the fandom grow and to see
fan art.
and see more fan art, because
Yeah.
like I look at like Star Wars, like fan art sometimes is better than the actual real stuff when it comes to the art and like posters and stuff, and I can't wait to see more of this. So it's so cool to have like one of our own quartet be part of that and create something so amazing. So I definitely highly recommend everyone go out and check that out. And if you guys, anyone out there either is part of doing some kind of fan art that you want to like sell or anything like that, just let us know. We'd love to see more fan art, and we will always throw out shout outs out there, because I want to allow people the opportunity to find these things and to purchase them if they're so inclined. Because sometimes I know me back in the day before I really delved into this stuff for the podcast, there'd be times that, like, I'd hear about something, like, oh, this cool, like something that was made, but I heard about it 2 months too late, and I was seeing an old article, and then they were sold out by the time I heard about it. So hopefully we can get some information to you guys before things are out of date. But yeah, with Chris's, it's definitely still up there. So go ahead and check that out. Check the show notes. We'll have the address for that. I think if you go to Etsy.com and search Dark Tower Timeline, it's the only thing that comes up. So that is definitely the one of the better ways to go when it comes to buying it. So that's that, and then let's jump on over to the next one, and we have Idris Elba talking about the Dark Tower. This new movie that's out is Molly's Game, and it's Aaron Sorkin film. I actually didn't know that until going through this article to find the quotes I needed. But Aaron Sorkin, obviously, of like the West Wing fame and stuff. I think he also wasn't Aaron Sorkin also the one that did A Few Good Men.
I can't remember. I've only seen that movie a few times.
Okay, but Aaron Sorkin's mostly the West Wing's probably like his magnum opus, and definitely a cool thing. But yeah, he's done this Molly's Game with Idris Elba, and I'm blanking on the actress. I think is it Jessica Chastain?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I actually did see one interview where Jessica Chastain is basically I don't know, what do you call it? Campaigning for the role of Bev in the second It movie.
Really?
Yeah.
She'd be great.
Yeah, she was like, during one interview I saw with her and Idris, there was nothing Dark Tower related, so we won't cover it full on in here, but she was basically just saying, yes, I want that. I've talked to like producers. I'm like pushing as hard as I can to get the role of Bev in the second movie. And then she said something to Idris about, maybe there'd be a role for him in the second It movie. And he like, I think he was being kind and stuff. He wasn't like full on like, oh yeah, like whatever, which like, I don't even know. I'm still curious what they're going to do. Like I'm blanking on his name now. I'm wondering who's going to stay. Is Ben going to stay? Because Ben, in the movie they converted the whole.
They kind of flipped it a little bit.
They took that whole nerdy element of like knowing the backstory and gave it to Ben, rather than, I'm blanking on the other kid's name. The one that was
I wanted to say Henry, but that's not right.
The one that's the historian in the books. Either way.
Holy crap! Ben, Bev, Eddie.
In the movie they made him homeschooled too.
Eddie, Bill, Richie. Ben and
it's been too long.
What is his name?
It's been too long since I've read.
Holy crap!
Oh, Will.
Will.
Sawyer saving us again. I don't know why.
Sawyer, you the man today.
I don't know why I was blanking on his name, but yeah. So
Henry just popped into my head.
I'm actually wondering if they're going if because Ben having all of that.
Mike. It's Mike.
Or Mike. Yeah. I'm wondering if they're gonna flip it and give all that give the staying part to Ben, since he's so plugged into like the history. I hope not, but if they do, I don't know, maybe Idris. I mean, that might play better in terms of like if Mike ends up going away from Derry and becoming super successful, like, well, I mean, you'd have to have Idris doing an American accent.
Wouldn't it be amazing? Him coming back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one of his dapper suits and everything like that.
Yeah.
It actually makes sense a little bit more when you look at it. If you looked at the kids' personalities after reading, like what they were into. Ben spent all the time in the library, reading and everything like that, because he didn't have any friends until he met the Losers and everything.
Yeah.
So that's where the Losers Club was. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day, and they're like, Losers Club? That's such a stupid name for a group. I was like, no, there's a Losers Club band, and it's a movie with Losers Club. What is it? I couldn't remember. It was it.
Yeah, the wires didn't cross in your head.
No, it didn't.
I actually ended up hanging out with a person, and on New Year's Eve we were just hanging out, having some beverages, and threw It on. So that's how I rang in the New Year's, right in the middle of It, the movie.
Oh, really?
That was so a Stephen King-y way to launch my 2018 was watching the second half of It as 2018 was rang in. So
Yeah, thanks, Lydia, for the correction. It is Mike. You're right.
yeah. So Mike, yeah. So, but yeah, in that interview that I did read, Idris, I wouldn't say he was like super excited. I feel like if I read the text right, the way I was reading it, it just felt kind of polite, like, oh yeah, maybe, type thing. Whereas like Jessica Chastain is very much wanting that role of Bev in the second It movie. But so they're doing this movie called Molly's Game. It's a courtroom type thing. And there was an interview done with Idris to promote this movie, and it was done by Screen Crush by E. Oliver Whitney on December 21st, 2017. And as what is the tradition? Do you remember the tradition with interviews when it came to our lead up to the Dark Tower movie?
It was always talking about something else.
It was always the last question of the interview.
Yeah.
It was about Dark Tower.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Here, same thing.
Are you serious?
Last question. So this whole interview is about Molly's Game, just Idris Elba, just general stuff, nothing to do with Dark Tower to the very last thing. So last question. Stephen King recently said the Dark Tower TV series would be a reboot. I'm curious if you know whether your gunslinger will be involved in the series and how it will fit into the movie. And Idris answers, you know what? I didn't know Stephen said that. I don't know actually where it lies. I must figure this out. I don't know where it lies. I'm unfortunately the last to know at this point. And, which is generally the case when it comes to actors. I would say in general, actors are usually the last to know. Oh, it looks like we're having some stream issues again, of course, because just standard procedure.
Yep.
Gotta love YouTube. Okay, let's go ahead and see if we can okay, so I think we're back now. Yep. Okay. Sorry, guys.
Looks good.
YouTube is ever the villain when it comes to the live streams. Yeah. So we got that now.
Please don't do that.
What?
Read what Cody just said.
Oh, he says in the middle of the hardware store with you on my speakerphone because I don't have headphones.
Don't put us out there where people can hear us. Bad idea.
So with Idris Elba, he's basically saying that he's the last to know. He doesn't know what's going on with the TV series. He doesn't know if he's going to be involved. With Stephen King, I think we covered that on our last roundtable that we had news to cover. Stephen King said that in an interview. I feel like I said it then and I'll say it now. I feel like that was Stephen King just talking on his own, and I don't feel that that's necessarily like the gospel that people are making it out to be. I feel like Stephen King will just say something. We saw that with the making of this movie with Dark Tower, that he would say things and like feel like people took all the stuff as though like
it's like gospel.
Yeah, like he was this absolute ruler, and it's just like, guys, like he's outside of this production. Like they may like use him as a resource, but like he doesn't. What he says doesn't go.
No.
So I don't know. I don't know that I think that this all might be a little bit of an overreaction, unless because I don't feel that the way his quote read that he was necessarily saying, "Oh yeah, they talked to me and they told me it's going to be a complete reboot." No, he said, "I think it's going to be a complete reboot." Type thing. So, but that's Idris's comments towards that. If it does turn out to be a complete reboot, he is not sure. We also know that around the same time we were covering that Idris Elba said that he still wants a sequel movie.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that. Now, as he gets to be a bigger actor, maybe he could even leverage that into getting more movies made. Who knows? So that's that. Not much there, but of course the last question. So next up we have a Q&A with Stephen King, and the title was Stephen King Q&A. Pennywise's Crater on Scaring the Hell Out of 2017, and this is by our good buddy Anthony Bresnikan from EW, and it was done on December 22nd, 2017.
Oh, Anthony.
So yeah, he has this interview with Stephen King, and I will have the show notes will have the link to the full thing if you want to go read that and hear King talk about a lot of 2017. What we're obviously going to focus on here is the Dark Tower element of that, and see what did Anthony say and what did Stephen King say about the Dark Tower movie. So this is done in a question and answer fashion. So Anthony Bresnikan says, why do you think that there is this sudden spike in attention? And Steven answers and says, luckily, most of the stuff turned out. Obviously, there were some people who didn't really dig the Dark Tower that much, but it still made an impact on my life, and it made an impact on the books. The whole series kind of picked up in terms of sales because people got interested. The other stuff was pretty terrific. So if nothing else, we know that the books are spiking in sales, which is definitely something that I was hoping to see.
Yeah.
And I will say I have seen it like in terms of like on like I at least I watch silently on like the Dark Tower subreddit. I don't post there much anymore. Just hasn't been a lot of conversations in my opinion that's worth having. It just feels like it's all just movie bashing, and I don't know. It just feels like it becomes an echo chamber. So like I just kind of ignore a lot. I don't engage it. I guess I read it, but there has been some I've read where people have talked about starting the books or being midway through the books where it's like, okay, you probably started these books because of the movies. So it is kind of cool to see that happening. And yeah, hopefully bring the fandom up and see more people understand things like how great Randall Flagg is.
No, just don't, Tad. Can you just not be Tad for one episode? Just one.
Well, why would
turn a new leaf? It's 2018. Come on.
I don't know if I can do that. I was always taught to be true to myself, and being true to myself means loving Randall Flagg.
Flagg is the bad guy. Just admit it.
That's like your opinion, man. All right. So next up is the question from Anthony. He says that brings us to the Dark Tower. I wrote a lot about this movie, and well, it just didn't work for me. So just as a side pause, it isn't the end of his question, but I guess now we kind of know that Anthony wasn't super keen on the movie. And then he goes on with the question and says, and it clearly didn't connect with the people, but there was so much anticipation for it. Why did this thing that people love in the book form fail to grab a hold as a movie? And Steven answers and says, I like everybody involved with that movie, and I like some of the casting choices for it. I liked Mighty Wiseck, the producer, the director, everybody. So, I'm always careful what I say about it. And then Anthony chimes in and says, I understand. So it feels like he's kind of prefacing it a little bit. And then he goes on, and Steven goes on and says, but I will say this, okay? The real problem, as far as I'm concerned, is they went into this movie, and I think this was a studio edict pretty much. This is going to be a PG-13 movie. It's going to be a tentpole movie. We want to make sure that that we can get people in there from ages of, let's say, 12 right on to whatever age is, let's say 12 to 35. And that's what we want. So it has to be PG-13. And when they did that, they lost a lot of the toughness of it, and it became something where people went to it and said, well, yeah, it's really not anything that I haven't seen before. And that kind of is where
isn't that like the number one complaint we've heard?
And like that's where like with between that and like again watching Mr. Mercedes yesterday, I think both those things coalesced in my head where I kind of understood like, okay, yeah, I see what people are saying. Like whereas Dark Tower could have been something unlike anyone's ever seen before. As much again, I enjoyed the movie, but I could see where now the complaint is that it is like something that we've all seen a number of times now in a lot of ways. So a lot of the weirdness was kind of trimmed off, and a lot of the wasn't overly violent or dark necessarily even. So I could definitely see it. It's helping me understand a little bit more where the people that weren't a fan of it where they're coming from, I guess. Like I said, I enjoyed it, but it could have also been the hype of like just finally seeing Dark Tower on the big screen. It could have been lost in like the great performances of Idris Elba, Matthew McConaughey, and Tom Taylor.
You're a huge fan of Idris too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, there's that also to account into it. That maybe you just got a little Idris blind.
Yeah, and I think that like to see the Dark Tower universe even portrayed differently was pretty cool. Overall,
I know that's where I was. Is that I got a Dark Tower movie? Oh my gosh, I'm going to love this thing no matter what. It kind of, I guess that's how I went into the movie, and now I've seen it a couple times. I've seen it a bunch of times now, and I'm looking back on it. And as soon as you said that today, it's just kind of opened my eyes to like, it didn't go weird enough. They're absolutely right. It did not feel kingy.
Yeah.
There's nothing in that movie that makes you go, oh man, that was a Stephen King.
Yeah, but I think it's one of those things that like Steven even alluded to here is that it's probably more of a studio thing. And so it kind of comes back to that original conversation we had a year or maybe two ago, closer to the beginning of the podcast, is do you want a movie or a TV series? And I think a lot of us, I was saying at least, I wanted a movie for nothing else than to see rolling on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I said beyond that, I'm okay with the rest of it being a TV series. Like
there's a lot less studio involvement.
Yeah, it's like I just want to see roll on the big screen. Beyond that, I don't care. Just let me see it once. And I think it's a lot, when it comes to TV, I feel like TV is a lot more willing right now to go weird, to go off the chart, to go like just oddball, to go crazy, to go violent, to go pushing boundaries. It feels like all in all, that's why we're in the golden age of television, because like TV is risking everything, whereas movies, they're just not. Like the movies are as low risk as they've ever been.
Yeah.
And so in general, maybe a TV series would end up allowing us to embrace the kinginess of the Dark Tower series and see things that maybe a movie could never really allow. I mean, even think about like Marvel with the MCU. Like you got the movies are all staying in that PG-13 range, but then you go watch the Netflix series. Those are like hard R. If those are movies, those would be hard R rated. You know what I mean? You got
a couple would be close to NC-17 with some of the stuff that happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, this day and age, there's no such thing as NC-17. Everything just falls under the umbrella of R. But yeah, I mean, you've got like some pretty gratuitous sex scenes. You've got violence on the charts.
Lots of violence. I mean, we just had a Punisher mini series started. So
I feel like with TV, like there isn't those same qualms, especially when it comes to streaming. And whether you call it, I call it like premium, because you talk like HBO, because you are paying more for it. They don't have to have advertising, which means now you take out that whole level of, because like I think the ultimate equivalent of like the producers and the people that like kind of put edicts on movies for TV has always been the advertisers. I remember like when Hannibal was on TV. I think that's a great television show. I cannot believe they got away with what they did on the network, but I do know that they lost a lot of advertisers over the years, because they're like, we don't want you to show things like that you're showing. Like this is ridiculous. So they lost advertisers, and eventually when you lose enough advertisers, the show gets canceled, because ultimately the advertisers pay the bills. And I think when you get into like Netflix or HBO or Hulu, now when you're paying them directly, the only thing that they're answering to is the audience. So all it comes down to is, will audiences buy this versus will audiences buy this, and will advertisers be okay with it? So like with all that added, now you got this whole other level of HBO, Netflix, Hulu. They can go absolutely bonkers and go full on with everything that we may want to see in the future. Like book 4, I think like with this miniseries that they have in the works, or with the series they have in the works now, not miniseries, I feel like with that book would be the ultimate indicator. Because like think about some of the violence and some of the stuff that we have in book 4. If they can do that right, they can do the rest of the series easily right. You know what I mean?
So here's a question that just popped into my head with talking about Gerald's Game and It and Mr. Mercedes with going not steering away from some what's the right way of saying it, sensitive subjects.
Yeah,
I mean, like you were just talking about Bev and her dad. There's one in Gerald's Game. There's one in there's a few in Mr. Mercedes. There's quite a few in there.
Yeah.
Do you think that they'd shy away from how young Roland and Susanna are? Susan or Susanna? Susan. I always mix those two up.
I that's a tough one. I think they're gonna have to age them up, because like I think that like I don't know that like which is kind of bizarre that like two kids of like 14, 15-year-old age having consensual sex would be considered more shocking than, say, alluding to the fact that a father is sexually assaulting his daughter in It. But that's the reality of it, to portray something like that, because you're not really showing it. Whereas whatever. So I think they're gonna have to age them up because of that, but also because honestly, is your average audience going to buy a 14-year-old Roland doing the things that he does in that story? I think if you age him up to 16 to 18, I think it's a little bit more believable for people to show like his prowess, which I get from our perspective, from book readers, like, oh yeah, let's just go with it. And like, let's just see a 14-year-old kid like best like these dudes in their 40s and 50s that are hardened dudes that live on the fringes of society, dudes that are like, basically the mirror images of gunslingers. These are dudes that live the same life that Roland eventually will live. To see a 14-year-old kid beat them would be may stretch credulity a tiny bit. So I'd see aging them up just a couple of years. One, because now you could have an actor that's 18, actors that are 18 that look younger, to maybe feel a little bit not as weird about the sex stuff with Susan and Roland, and also the fact that he's going to be besting adults basically, and
that's true, and
hardened adults. So let's see. So yeah, I think that like that's what I'm hoping for, is to see like the premium stuff, but we'll see. And then let's see. Anthony goes on and says, I agree. I think they tried to make it too much like other things rather than embracing the strangeness and originality of it.
Yeah.
And then Steven says, there was a decision made to start it pretty much in the middle. And when they actually made the movie, I had doubts about it from the beginning and expressed them and didn't really get too far. Sometimes when people have made up their minds, the creative team that's actually going to go and shoot the movie, it's a little bit like hitting your fist against hard rubber, you know? It really doesn't, it doesn't really hurt, but you don't get anywhere. It just sort of bounces back. And I thought to myself, well, people are going to be really puzzled by this, and they were. So there was some of that problem too. I haven't really considered that too much. Again, mostly because of how strange the first book is, and like maybe seeing how it'd be hard to. I think the only way you could do the first book truthfully, as a full-on movie, would have been to incorporate the flashback stuff with like
Court,
hacks
and
Court and all that kind of stuff, because if you add that in now, suddenly you can actually see the movie gaining some length, because I look at it with that, like there's so much internal dialogue and stuff that takes up so many of those pages that, like, you know, yeah, but if you put it on the screen, it's going to be a minute worth, because you can have him sitting there puzzling and pondering over a fire, but you can only go like 30 seconds on a shot like that before it gets boring. So
yeah,
because you can't read his mind. I mean, we as book readers would be like, oh, this is probably where he's thinking about hacks, or this is where he's thinking about this. But your average movie audience can't do that. So it's like, it would be a matter of, can you make it long enough to be a feature-length movie? And then the only way you do that is adding in all that flashback stuff.
Maybe expanding him a little bit too.
Yeah, the trial with Court, hacks, maybe expand a little bit more to show.
Where you see day-to-day lessons with him in Court and him and, I always forget the tutors.
Yeah. Usually I don't think it blank his name, but now that you said it, it's Vene.
Yeah. See something like that, or something with his father. Hell, I mean, if you really wanted to, have his father tell him the story of the Skinwalker.
Yeah, or I mean, you can do that. You could also get into, obviously, the Flag stuff with his mom. You want to get into stuff like that. I mean, honestly, what I would do is plunge even into book 4 if you had to take some of the not Mage's stuff, but the Gilead stuff. Yeah. To lengthen it out. But then you're looking at a movie like a Godfather 2, where you'd have a movie that's half and half. Half of it's when Roland's a young boy, half of it when Roland is on his quest in the Mohaine Desert. So, I guess actually you could even cut down a little bit on some of that and some of the Gilead stuff, because you'd want to show some of Jake's story too. Show his relationship with his father. Show maybe some like bullying at school. Like you could show, like, kind of have like almost like a thing where you got like the Mohaine Desert, but then you're jumping back to like Roland's past and to Jake as he's like explaining himself to Roland. Show the things that he would be telling. Show the life he lived.
Very It-esque, what you're talking about, bouncing him back and forth between two times and showing multiple stories from those times. That's how it was.
Yeah.
So you have the 7 losers, and you have the 7 losers as kids and the 7 adults
with their different lives.
Their different stories and different. And then you even throw in stuff like Henry Bowers, Adrian. I just spaced on his name. Adrian, the one that gets attacked in '85. The 2 gays, the one under the bridge.
You have the one that was like outside the carnival or something too, right?
Yeah, they were leaving the carnival and he was wearing the stupid hat, and then 3 guys threw him over the bridge.
Oh yeah.
You got that story where the cops are interrogating him, and then you have the one that gets his head ripped off. His stepdad murdered his younger brother.
Yeah,
with the recoilless hammer, and he gets taken by the creature from the Black Lagoon. You have all these different stories that get thrown in there as well. It's very similar to that as what you're talking about. Is you have these multiple.
Sawyer has your answer for you there. Adrian
Mellon. That's it.
Oh man, Sawyer, you're killing it today. Killing it with
Sawyer. You're on point, man. You're.
Yeah, I wish I don't know. My brain sometimes just loses like smaller details like that. I mean sometimes big details like with Mike Hanlon there. But yeah, no, I think with Dark Tower they easily could have done something like that with the movie. But I think it would definitely be a little bit tougher. And again, now you're talking about a Western to where you would have to like embrace the Western side when it came to the Mohaine stuff. But yeah, that's so jumping in the middle, I can see why they did it. But yeah, I guess King's saying that people are puzzled by it. So, and I could see that too.
Yeah.
Then he says, and Bresnikan says, I hope someone takes another shot at the Dark Tower. Whenever I hear cable or streaming services say, we're looking for the next Game of Thrones, I think, here's this series of books, man. They're right there. Just pick them up. And then Stephen King says that might happen. It might happen. So
wait,
yeah, don't.
what?
Yeah, if we ran a movie blog, we could then take some headlines from that and go. Stephen King says that the streaming service is going to make their next Game of Thrones out of the Dark Tower. No, so it's just Stephen King just kind of say it, but no, that's
King being kingy.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately the hope of when it comes to
Majority of our audience is Dark Tower fans.
Yeah. I think that's the hope of all of us is that they can really take it to the next level with this series, and from there we could see it revitalized. And I mean, ultimately, if they end up rebooting it, if that doesn't turn out to be the case, then honestly, they could probably go through and after the book 4 stuff, the next season could get into book 1. Because if you rebooted it with with like a different cast, which I get, we're going to be looking at Roland as a kid, but say if they cast a white kid as Roland, now suddenly you're going to have to recast him, and then it is a full-on reboot. So you'd have to have a new Roland on television for the book 1 and throughout the rest of the series. So now you'd have a new Roland, and you could just go back and retell book 1 truthfully as the book portrays it and see what happens.
Should we make our fans really lose their marbles for a second? Scott Eastwood?
I don't know what he's up to anymore. I know that he's done some small roles here and there, but I haven't really seen like massive things that he's done. I haven't seen him like break out through into like the bigger.
Didn't he just do a really big movie last year? It was an army movie, wasn't it?
I can't remember.
I thought it was one of the bigger ones.
I remember he was in Suicide Squad, unfortunately, but that was a smaller role. And then let's see. Mark in the chat says Eddie Cochran.
Yeah.
Is that another one of the names?
That was the one that got killed by the creature from the Black Lagoon, got his head ripped off.
Yeah.
And then he also had Hope is a Wonderful Thing.
yeah. So I think that's where we're all at is like just hoping to hear some information on this TV series, and hopefully they can just go really, really wild with it. I think that like if nothing else, with all this popularity of Mr. Mercedes and Gerald's Game 1922, what else came out? 2017 is like the year of King when it comes in.
Yeah.
And honestly, as sad for us as it might be, all of them were pretty much successful except for Dark Towers. So it's one of those things that might help, a streaming service look at it and go, okay, well, maybe the people that did the movies, missed the mark, but this might still be something that has money in it,
Yeah.
and it might be something they want to invest in, be it Hulu or Netflix or HBO. I'm hoping for Netflix or HBO just because I tend to see TV of the highest quality when it comes from those two, generally speaking.
Hey, 11/22/63 was not that bad.
No, it wasn't, but there is some stuff that Hulu does where I'm just like, meh, I don't know. But yeah, I guess the real thing we should look at is who might have the best connections for maybe showing other things. Like, is there someone out there that has rights to, say, Salem's Lot? It has the rights to those characters for television.
Salem's Lot was referenced for Castle Rock, so I'm starting to think Hulu.
Just have...
It's going to be a weird day when the mouse works with the king.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, because now Disney owns 60% of Hulu.
Yeah.
So, so we'll see what happens on that. But that's all I got for news right now. There is not, like I said, there's not a ton going on when it comes to news. But we wanted to jump over to some emails, and we got some ample time to go through some emails here. So. First up is going to be I got the email slide there. So first up is going to be Pete from Kentucky. I am pretty sure that we did not cover this. I unfortunately didn't delete stuff last time, so if this is familiar, you can let me know.
Before you start Pete's email, Mark just asked a question. I wanted him to clarify. What are you asking about Guy Pearce for Roland? For Roland,
yeah. That's good. Guarantee that'll be for Roland.
Oh, okay.
I like him. I think that like, is he one that's going to play a TV role though? It would be my only question. I mean, he's a fairly successful actor.
Yeah.
I just remember I just watched LA Confidential not too long ago, but
okay, Guy Pearce, yeah.
Yeah, and he was in Iron Man 3 as the main villain.
Justin Hammer? Oh no.
He was the Killian was his name. The one that turned
right, Killian. I went Iron Man 2 for some reason. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think he'd be. I mean, there's so many good options out there. I think he'd be good. Yeah, and he's a little bit more proven. I mean, if they could really sign him up for like a 7 to 10 year movie or like TV project, then I say absolutely sign him up. I can't help but think that, I mean, again, it's TV, so it'd be hard to do, but man, imagine my boy, Randall Flagg, played by Gary Oldman. Now, I know that'll never happen. That dude's is like hopefully going to win an Oscar here when it comes to for his Churchill movie. So I highly doubt that he'd be able to take that time out to do it. But I would love to see, maybe even see Flagg change faces to where like you have different actors for him because Flagg's constantly shifting and whatever. And just have at least one season where it's Gary Oldman. Just please.
So nice.
Just please.
Hopefully it's the one where he dies.
Yeah, I don't know about that. We could change that. That's one spot we can change up and make sure the Flagg lives to the end. And then Mark says he saw him in the movie Australia and thought of Roland. That's I can't remember if I've seen that one. Wasn't that Hugh Jackman in that movie?
Hugh Jackman, Nicole Kidman.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I saw that one.
How the crap do I know that? I've never even seen that freaking movie.
I'm trying.
My wife would be really annoyed with me right now.
There's been a number of actors that have done like westerns that make me think of Roland. It feels like every time I watch a western, I'm always just like, oh, there's someone else that could play a cowboy. Yeah, but that's I don't know. It'd be tough to say. But I think ultimately it comes down to is because TV is such a different beast than a Hollywood. You either want to look at a little bit of a lower actor that would be willing to go commit to a huge thing for television because it might be a step up for them to then become the lead, or you look for someone that plays leads generally for television because it just feels like it's a whole different ball game when it comes to creation. But yeah, I think that I don't know, because I think of like a Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. Like he's been in some movies, but like it's always smaller roles. But in TV, he's played some pretty big parts. So yeah, that's gonna be tough to say. Now I know one person that does do television, Aaron Paul.
That's my boy. That's my boy right there.
He does do a lot of television, so
that's my boy.
Hopefully, that's a good sign for things.
If you had to cast Jack Nicholson in The Dark Tower, where would you go?
Are we talking like modern Jack or like
modern Jack?
1970s?
No,
Jack?
modern Jack.
Oh man, that's a tough one, man. I'd probably.
Sorry, you got a copy of The Shining sitting right here, and I'm just looking at his face with the "Here's Johnny."
But that's old Jack, or
no, I know,
like I mean, old school Jack.
Let's
modern. I mean, I'm thinking of like how he looked in like The Departed, which is even still that's freaking 12 years ago. I mean, instantly like comes to mind is maybe like Balazar. Maybe like I again maybe it's just the Departed stuck in my head and makes me think of like the Mob, but like with that like
what about
because he'd be an older character.
What about as the mayor of Hambry? Magus.
Yeah, I mean
the one that he's betrothed to Susan.
Yeah, you being the old creep.
The old creep.
Oh man. And then like Sawyer saying Guy Pearce would be great, but now that I've seen Idris Elba, I don't want to see anyone else play him. And like honestly, I'm kind of in the same boat. I would love even if they rebooted it, if they were able to keep Idris on and like just sign him up for like, yes, you're going to be the lead, but we're going to need you for 6-7 years on television. If he was to sign up for it, I'd be totally down. Like even I know you won't get Matthew McConaughey to come over, but if you could get Idris to stay, I'm with Sawyer on that. I'm all about that.
Mark just said, Jack, I can see him as Ted. Ted Brannigan.
Yeah. I'd have to think of it because I'm just thinking he's older now. I have to watch like a Laker game to see what he looks like nowadays. I don't know. I think that like you could do something like that, like have him be the creepy dude in Magus. I don't know. Probably something like that. It's just because I have The Shining sitting there.
Yeah, sorry, you just had it sitting there and it just popped into my head to ask.
Now, what about younger Jack?
Younger Jack.
Like Jack from like the Shining era.
Younger Jack, he's still psychotic. So who's a psychotic character that let's see, that face right there?
Yeah, so let's say if you're looking at the cover of The Shining, you're going to be getting only the creepy psychopath.
What if he's Dandolo?
Oh, God. Yeah, that would be something else.
Wouldn't that be something else to see him up there telling jokes in his living room as he's trying to eat people?
Yeah. You know who I want to see as Dandolo, though?
Who?
Mark Hamill.
Oh, yes.
I want to see Mark Hamill as Dandolo. I think and Mark saying younger Jack is Flagg. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I know that when it comes to younger, one that I've seen people call out a lot is I just blanked on his name. Selena Kyle's boss in Batman Returns. He's the one that sticks the watch in his ass in Pulp Fiction.
Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken. I'm blanking on his freaking name.
I almost said Willem Dafoe.
Like an old Christopher Walken, like old school, like back in the day, like in the 1960s or 70s. Like I've heard people call him out as like a perfect Flag, and I could definitely see that kind of thing too. But yeah, Jack would probably be the same way. Yeah, you could do something like that. I mean, yeah, if you're doing younger Jack, yeah, you could do a lot of different roles for him.
I could see him being one of the three coffin hunters too.
Yeah, I was just thinking the coffin hunters. Yeah,
not Jonas.
No, not Jonas,
but one of the other two.
Yeah. Now Jonas, did we talk about? I can't remember. We talked about him when we did our Dreamcast. And this is turning into a tangent a little bit, but did we both say Sam Elliott? I can't remember.
Yes.
Sam Elliott seems to come to mind when it comes to Jonas.
If I remember it, I actually still have those documents.
Oh man, yeah, I think that like something like that definitely comes to some like grizzled like old school cowboy definitely is what comes to mind for Jonas. But yeah. All right, so we're gonna get over to the email now. I mean,
yeah, cry your pardon again. I keep tangenting us here.
People in the chat, if you want to keep talking about it, we can keep referencing back to what you guys are talking when it comes to the casting stuff. But it's always fun when, especially I love like all time dream casting stuff because like versus like like if you give me like an older actor, like if I could take them in their younger period, it's always fun because now you're not even talking about realistic. You're just talking about if I had a time machine and I can go back and grab actors from any era, like who would I put in what role? Like that's an interesting question, I guess.
That's a fun one to do.
Yeah. Okay, so Pete from Kentucky starts off, says Pete from Kentucky here. I just heard the latest podcast in which Peter said, and actually I will say, did we already read this one? That Flag is Farson, but I think that was me that, because I hold that the two are, Flag and Farson, are the same.
Yeah.
I feel like it's super ambiguous, and I feel like King either did it on purpose or just got mixed up and kind of put certain portions that make it seem like they absolutely have to be different people and other portions where they're the same person, including his intros where he gives Farson as one of those names for Flag. But Pete, I think we may have read this one. He says it was you that called that, but I think it was me. Mm-hmm. And he says I think they're two separate people. I think it was book 7. It was mentioned that Flag fought alongside Farson at the Battle of Jericho Hill, and Flag killed Cuthbert with an arrow through the eye.
Yeah, we read this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we already covered that one. Okay. But yeah, no. So that goes into that, and I think we have a later email that kind of chimes in on that as well. Mm-hmm. But that's the age-old debate. I feel like is Flag and Farson. Same
I was going to say, didn't they clear that up in the comics?
No, I think the comics completely portrays it as separate people. So it's just one of those things that gets into one of those things of what actually counts as like truth.
Canon.
Yeah, like truth and canon. Is it Stephen King's books or is it the comic books? So that's a whole different conversation for sure. But Cody's saying Gasher. And are we talking about Jack Nicholson still? Yeah, I could see that. He could, because he's. I think that's the reason Stephen King has such a problem with him for Jack, right? Torrance.
Yeah, Jack Torrance.
Jack Torrance. I hate he has the same name. It always throws me off. Where it's just like, no, they would have changed his name. No, Jack. Yeah, so I think that's why King was so against him for playing Jack Torrance. Is that Jack Torrance is kind of supposed to be your every man, kind of a normal dude, and there's just no way that Jack Nicholson portrays that. Jack Nicholson is like always crazy, even when he's trying to play like a role straight.
Same person.
Yeah, he always comes off as like a little bit out there. So,
he's out there, all right.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson is Blaine's voice. Sawyer says.
Oh,
yeah,
just to see Eddie put him down.
I mean, again, I just said it for Dandelo, but I've always felt that. Well, first I always felt Tim Curry, but now that he's had his stroke and he's mostly, I don't even know how well he functions vocally anymore.
Did you see that he's coming to Salt Lake Comic Con?
Yeah, that was really that
was out of left field for me.
Locally, we have one of the Comic Cons here. Well, I don't know if they're calling that anymore. They just lost a lawsuit, but they're having Tim Curry, and I was like shocked at that because I'm like,
he's like a headliner for it now.
I didn't know that he was one that still got around because he had that pretty bad stroke. So, but no, so ever since I moved on from him, I've always been saying Mark Hamill for the voice of Blaine. But yeah, I could definitely see Jack doing a voice for it too. Now, ultimately, it doesn't matter because Jack is retired. I think he's full on, like he's done. Like he just wants to go to Dodger and Laker games, so he doesn't act anymore. But yeah, I could see him doing the voice for it too. He could pull it off. The only other one that I could think of that off the top of my head is James Earl Jones.
Oh yeah,
to voice Blaine.
Yeah,
Simba.
Answer my riddle.
I don't know. I think at that point I'd start rooting for Blaine way too much if it was James Earl Jones.
You love James Earl Jones.
He's the best, man. Is there a better voice ever? I mean, there's some great ones out there, but man,
Morgan Freeman's good, but he's no James Earl Jones.
Yeah, James Earl Jones is a treasure to the world.
Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah,
I might take Anthony over
his voice.
His voice.
Oh man, him as an actor, yeah, him as a psychotic cannibal that eats people.
No,
fine,
his dude. Just go back to How the Grinch Stole Christmas. One of the greatest narrating jobs in the history of narrating. It is. You can't argue with me. I will fight you on this.
I don't know.
Anthony Hopkins as narrator for How the Grinch Stole Christmas is a classic. It's great.
Has James Earl Jones narrated anything? That's what I'd be that's what I'd be curious.
Didn't he read the Bible?
Yeah, I know he did an audiobook of like the King James Bible or something like that way back in the day. But
he would just be a perfect God voice. Have someone normal dude reading the Bible, then have him be the burning bush.
Yeah,
Moses.
he's definitely got, because I remember looking into when they came out with that thing recently where they said that if they have like 10 hours of someone's recorded voice, they could replicate it almost perfectly now by computer. And I just thought to myself, I started doing research into like James Earl Jones, like how many hours of voice do we have of him? And I saw that like the King James Bible, and I'm like, oh, okay, we got
he's good. He's locked up.
Yeah, we got plenty of time. And then Mark says John Ratzenberger for Blaine.
Ratzenberger.
Isn't that he's a guy from Cheers? Isn't he one that did Ham and
oh gosh, no.
And he's also in Empire Strikes Back as well as a small role on Hoth. But yeah. And there's so many good like casting, like, and when it comes to like Blaine, you're talking a voice, like how many great voices can you come up? There's so many out there.
Should we do a new casting for the TV show?
Maybe just whether it's a series or whether we just do like,
let's do a series. Let's do a series where we're going to include book 4 and a reboot. Should we do that?
I think we should just focus on book 4 and see
just book 4.
Yeah,
we did a little bit in book 4. But let's. I think we should do that for a show,
and have
because we did that for the movie.
Have listeners chime in too. I'd love to hear like just like maybe what we'll do is I'll come up with a list of characters and we'll have those set. And you have to come up with someone for that. Yeah, and have people fill them in. And if they want to skip one, they can skip one. But then what we could do is when we're talking about it, we could just go down, like I could read the list and just like. And we could also see people's responses in the live chat. Yeah, on the chat, and then also just like if people email in, I could like sort out rather than reading an entire email, like sort them out to where it's like when we talk about young Roland, I could tell you like, well, here's what here's
Chris what Lydia said, here's what Chris said, here's what Cody said, here's what Mark said. And everything. I'm down for that. Here's what Pete said. Hopefully, if the listeners are down Kentucky. For it, I'm down for it because I'm all about that kind of stuff. We did one of our very first shows was a couple months into the show. We did one because that was before the movie was signed, but there was rumblings. Yeah. And everything like that. There's rumblings about a TV show now. I think we should do a fantasy casting. It's a tradition. It becomes a tradition when we make it a 2. Yeah. I'm totally down. All right. Okay, so it'll be a while, guys. Let me preface that. That's not going to come in place of book club next time or the comic talk after that. But this is something that's going to happen in 2018 and soon. First quarter, maybe. All right, it's tough to say. All right, yeah, it could be fun though. Okay, so sorry, emails. Yeah, next up is Martin from Copenhagen. I don't think we got to his. I know he's emailed a few times before. Sorry, guys, I made a mistake last time when we were going through emails. I didn't delete the emails because I just have a big master list that I kind of just go through. Oh, okay. And I just didn't delete it. So hopefully I don't think we went through this one though. I tried to read them, but I read these like so often that like they'll be like, oh yeah, we read that one. And like, wait, no, we didn't. Did I read that one or did we read that one? Yeah. So Martin starts up and says, Heil, Tad, and Peter. Heil. He says, thank you for your continued great podcast, and I would definitely appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. And he says, so after some gloomy Dark Tower weeks since my initial disappointment after watching the movie, I have had time to reflect. In the meantime, I watched it, and I really enjoyed that, and I finally returned to the Dark Tower universe, and he says, I'm rereading/listening to the whole series, and I'm in the Wastelands currently, and listening to your latest podcast, so I'm writing to answer your twofold question. And so he has the question here, which is great because this is from obviously a little while ago. We always have a delay in terms of emails to like, so when they're like, oh, your latest episode, it's like, yeah, that may have been 5 episodes
episodes ago. And he says, question 1, would you rather have a TV series than a movie? And so this kind of goes into what we just talked about a little bit ago. He says it's very hard not to be biased when answering this after having witnessed the failure of the movie, at the same time witnessing the golden age of television in full bloom. I think that a movie could have worked, but not considering their desire to switch things around. Throw chronology out the window and go with the last time around angle. This ends up with them having to hook not only people unfamiliar with the source material, but also deeply enfranchised people. As such, it appears even more of a miscalculation to open up with a 1.5 hour speed through introduction to the universe, the main characters, etc. I mean, I am in book 3 at the moment, and King has spent an entire chapter describing how Jake is losing his mind by an obsession with doors. I really think the universe would have fared much better in a television show where more time could have been given to the character development, lingering on details in regard to their world building, etc. And I could definitely see that. I think that when it comes to the TV show, I think we've even talked about this when it comes to like expanding on like things like Jake's madness or things like even like because we talked about with the movie, how much would the movie have improved in both of our eyes if they had been able to spend 15 more minutes of Jake in the real world before everything happened, you know? And that's just kind of stuff that you can't necessarily indulge yourself with a movie, whereas with the TV show you can indulge yourself all you want. I mean, you look at something like Breaking Bad, like that's literally over the course of 3 years, but it's seven seasons of television, you know, and you go into the point where like every one of those characters by that last episode, you know, the ones that are left anyway, you know them, you know,
spoiler alert, someone dies,
you know their ticks, you know their you know like their deep feelings, you know how they interact with each other, you know all those things, and that's because you have had 7 years to do whatever you want.
Character development, serious character development,
serious nitty-gritty character development. And I think that you can get into that with a TV show, and like he's saying here, like showing Jake, you could do a whole episode of just Jake's losing his mind in the real world after having died third or fourth time, whatever it is. Gosh. That poor kid is he's running out of respawns.
Oh. Extra lives 0.
Yeah, well, he may have had one left, but then that van, you know.
Oh. Hashtag Ted is terrible.
Wow, that took us a while to get into.
No, it was used earlier in the chat. Lydia used it.
Oh,
so,
okay.
No,
but
no. See, it's growing, Ted. It's not just me that uses it anymore.
Okay, so Martin goes on and says, now, as with anything, a TV show would also have to have been be at the mercy of poor decisions from producers, directors, and whatnot, but I think that would have stood a better chance. When I mentioned I think a movie could have worked, I think we would have to be talking about a series of films. Unlike some, I do believe that The Gunslinger could have worked as a franchise opener, make it a dark, somber, capture the mood, make the action tight played, and establish Roland, make it R-rated. It doesn't have to be a huge budget. If it fares well, you go bigger or drawing at the 3 and we're off. Of course, several things will have to be changed along the way, and that's fine. I still don't see the whole meta aspect of King being a character working out on film, for instance, but that would be my ideal take for a movie take. And I agree. And I think that like the Stephen King stuff, if nothing else, at the behest of Stephen King, is probably never going to be seen on screen. So that'll probably never happen. Now there is actually one other element that I thought about while reading that Stephen King interview when I was doing the show prep, and I forgot to put a note to talk about it then. I remember unequivocally hearing when we were leading into the movie, and people that have been with us since the beginning basically will remember this. There was a thing where Stephen King said that the first line of the movie would be the opening line of the book, and that he was very forceful with the filmmakers that had to be the case, and that they were doing it.
Yeah.
So then when you flash forward and watch the movie and it doesn't show up till an hour into the movie or so, or 40 minutes into the movie before you hear that line, it makes me think like there is a lot going on in development of the movie, man. Like and so it's one of those things like Stephen King said in the interview that sometimes these creators get things in their mind and trying to like reason with them to change their mind is nigh on impossible. And it makes me think that, well, they were probably had their mindset that wasn't going to open the movie. So, maybe they recorded it and then just like, told King, we'll have it at the very beginning, and they didn't. So, just side tangent there. But made me think that like, oh yeah, I remember covering that news that King basically told us that it will open with the opening line. Yeah. And we were all excited about that.
Yeah, we all were.
So Martin goes on and says, question 2, knowing what you know, would you rather there have been no movie at all? And yeah, I remember these questions. This is like on the backside, and I was like throwing out some questions to people specifically, not specifically, but mainly for people that didn't like it. And he said, this one's tricky. On one hand, I had a blast getting hyped over the movie. The last year has been filled with excitement surrounding the movie, and this is in part because I never thought I'd see the day where Dark Tower movie would be making it onto the big screen. And yeah, even if I was very disappointed, part of my heart still soared when I saw the opening title and the music started swelling. Yeah, and I agree totally. Starting with the
Tech Corporation
title card, that was pretty cool. Then he goes on and says, on the other hand, I do believe that supplementary stuff can lessen originals. I think it's hard to think about The Matrix without also thinking about the disasters that were reloaded in Revolutions. Yeah, totally agree there.
Yeah.
Likewise, the Star Wars prequels, and he says, Tad, agree to disagree, and he gives a winky emoji. Hey, I guess it's come through clear in this podcast, my feelings there. And I think it will be hard for me to think about the Dark Tower without the imagery and the disappointing decisions made on the movie. Will this ever get done over, rebooted? Who will play Roland if this happens in 10 years? Will it be a white actor? Will it be that? Will that be weird? How do non-enfranchised people think about this? What if it's done again in 10 or 20 years? Then there's just this weird one-off movie, and there were some very distinct choices that aren't echoed in the source material. Will that dictate anything? And when it comes to that, I would actually say that, for instance, Westworld had a movie that came out in the 1970s that wasn't popular in any way.
Yeah.
So I don't think that when it comes to that question he's asking there about, let's just say they. Yeah, and I'm hoping it won't take 10 to 20 years to get to that. I'm hoping hopefully we'll see that in the next couple of years. But if it is a reboot, I'm not necessarily hoping for a reboot because I want Idris to stick around. But if we do get a reboot, I don't think that necessarily the movie will be held against it because I feel like audiences are know there's a separation.
I feel there is a record, I would say, a running pattern in Hollywood where we have terrible movies, they do terrible, but then we get remakes, and those remakes go on to become great movies. I mean, there was a Captain America movie. There was a Spider-Man movie.
Spider-Man had, 3 reboots in the course of like a 12-year period?
Yeah.
The Hulk was rebooted within 2 years, 3 years
between? It was 5 years in between. 2003 to 2008. I was just looking at the years last night.
So, like, you're just talking, like, in general. So I don't think that would cause an issue. I don't think that this movie that exists, The Dark Tower, I don't think that necessarily has to impact things unless you allow it to. Like, the filmmakers. If they want to, like, latch onto, like, Idris and, like, use him continually or continue rolling to being a black character, they can do that. But I think that they don't do it, I don't think that that's necessarily going to, like, harm things going forward.
No.
And then he finishes up here and says, honestly, I think I would have preferred there not to have been a movie than to what we got. Let it slumber and eventually land on the hands of the right people. Similar things have happened to other properties. And yeah, to me, I just wonder if it didn't happen now, I just don't know if we would ever have gotten a movie at all, anything at all. Because
I don't know if
it just feels like everyone just keeps spinning their wheels going, this is just impossible, and giving up on it. So I don't know. I mean, if nothing else, maybe this is at least the shot in the arm that people need to just go, okay, we're going to do this. Now that that's been done, now that people have tried the first jump, let us jump in and see what we can do, hopefully, and just go with it and go crazy and see what...
We went your safe route, and we tried the antibiotics. It didn't work. Let's go in for the exploratory surgery and cut this bitch open and see if we can find something that everyone's going to love.
Yeah, indeed. So that's the end of that email. Did you have you were going away on the chat there for a minute.
No, sorry. Mark is new, and so I was just chatting him up a little bit about his favorite character and stuff.
Oh, okay. Oh, who was his favorite character?
Roland, and if he said it was anyone besides Roland, it would be Eddie. He brings a lot of humor after all the serious stuff. We get to react to all the craziness through Eddie, and I responded, that's my boy, and Sawyer said, no love for Mordred. I said, no, bad Sawyer. And Mark said, he's a little bit of an anticlimax, and then Cody commented, #Tad pushes Peter's buttons. So
yeah that's I always love hearing those responses from people in terms of, like, who their favorite characters are and stuff. I mean, I especially love it when they say Flag, but I guess I'll
oh, okay. Mark reads the Dark Tower series out of order. That's the first person I've ever heard say that they do that.
Oh, really?
He says, I read the series in this order: 2, 3, 4, 1, 5, 6, 7.
No, he read the series.
Oh, I read the series. Oh, okay.
All right. And that's interesting. I mean, 2, 3, 4. 1, 5, 6. You know, and honestly, I could see like that works. And I've always told people, and we talked about it a little bit on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Like, would you recommend, in some cases, someone to start in book 2 if you feel that the book 1 style may rub them the wrong way, and then they can read book 1 after book 7 even, and come back around and read it then. Because with the argument at the beginning of all the books, like I feel like you could jump into any of the single books and at least have an idea what's going on. I wouldn't recommend jumping into like book 4 and just going, yeah, we're just going to start here. I mean, yeah, you have the argument that gives you a little bit of what's going on, but I feel like you've lost so much that it'll be detrimental to your enjoyment. But I think with book 1, I think the argument for book 2 synopsizes book 1 well enough that you could probably get away with it. And a lot of the character building and stuff kind of goes through, you know, the later books. I think the biggest thing you may lose doing that would probably be a little bit in terms of Jake. I don't know that the argument
you'd lose some of Eddie too.
No, book
Eddie's,
1. No, if you skip
book one.
If you skip book 1, I think Jake would be the main thing, because I think that the argument in book 2 really synopsizes it well. I think some of the only stuff you would lose is some of those like character things with Jake. You know, I hate, you know, was it adults because they fuck me up or whatever, like things like that, and like I don't know,
the Oracle and everything like that, all the interactions with him and Roland, and then even under the mountain. That just doesn't get covered as well in the argument.
Yeah, and I would say that like when it comes to Jake, it would be like his personality, some of his personality stuff, and maybe even some of like what is his life like in like on Earth, on I don't want to say Keystone Earth, but in our world, what was his life like, and how do those things that we hear about in book 1 like help us in book 3 to know, like, you know, Jake's relationship with his father or that kind of stuff. It'd be interesting to know in terms of, I'd have to read the argument again for book 2 and see how much do they cover for us to know him as you get into book 3, or does even book 3's argument go back and give you some more synopsis of Jake so that you know enough about him going in. So those are some interesting questions for sure.
Mark says, the argument did help a lot, but I couldn't wait.
Yeah, no, we debated that tail end of last year. Would it be worth in some cases having someone start off in book 2 because it's just less stylized than book 1. I'm not. This isn't one to like talking like because I think that book 1 is like bad. No, it's just different stylistically, and it might be tough for some people to digest. And also, who doesn't read the end of book 7 and want to read book 1?
I don't.
There's been times I've gone back and reread I'll read 1 through 7 and then 1 again, and then I'm done. Then I walk away. You know what I mean? Like that's how I like. I don't know. So it's definitely one way to look at things potentially.
It is interesting. Just add book 1 to book 7.
Yeah.
Make the end of book 1 the ending to the series. Where he's sitting on the Western Sea.
Yeah. Now I'm trying to think of is there any other ways to read if you wanted to do like Star Wars has like the machete order to like take things out of order. I think the only way you could do it is probably going book 2, 3, 4, because like I'm trying to think like you couldn't really start with 4 because with it resolving the cliffhanger, you'd have to start with book 3.
Yeah.
Start with book 3, which then you'd be like really in the middle of like, wait, what the hell is going on?
He's going crazy. Why?
Even with the argument, you'd be like, wait, like there's a lot going on here that I'm missing. So yeah. I think that what Mark's saying here might be but the only way is skipping book 1, not skipping it altogether, but reading it out of order might be the only way you could jump into the series without losing a lot. Lydia
does make a good point. She says book 1 seemed better to me on rereads. More context about Roland helps.
Yeah, I think that's what it was with me. Like, I had a hard time with it, and both some of the stylistic issues that were so much different than Stephen King that I had known. And then also I just don't know any of these characters, so I think that like going back and reading book 1, knowing who Flag is, knowing who Jake is, knowing who Roland is, it does really help illuminate that book and make it a lot better.
Well, didn't you say at one point that you had a really hard time caring about Jake at the first time, or you know, like a lot of it was you. I think you were talking about this a couple of times ago, where some people just don't get connected to Jake, and it's just like, okay, well, there's just a kid here, you know, like whoop-de-doo. I mean, but the main character is over here, the gunslinger. I'm supposed to care about him.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, what's this kid, and you know, what am I supposed to care about him? You know, and you kind of get a little bit about him and a little bit to start to care about him, but it's almost like the book need to be like 100 pages more longer, where you were talking about like with the TV show, where you get a little bit more about Jake, his day-to-day life and everything like that in New York.
Yeah, Looks like Chris from Australia just popped in the chat. Says, "How Gunslingers probably can't stay long. Just want to let you know I just literally finished watching it. Wow, what a great movie."
Yay!
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you finally saw. Yeah, I was just saying a little bit ago. I rewatched it for the first time at home and not in theaters New Year's Eve. So yeah, I'm glad you liked it. It's really good. I think it's probably up there in like some of the better Stephen King, in the pantheon of better Stephen King movies for sure. I still haven't really jumped into the special features on the Blu-ray yet. I can't wait for that. I've heard there's some deleted scenes and stuff that I'm looking forward to. But
he says he still prefers the book, but a really nice adaptation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know what? One thing I noticed the other night I was thinking about, I didn't notice. It was just kind of came to me randomly. I think what it was. I saw a headline. Maybe it was even doing show prep because talked about 2017 and Stephen King. It talked about how there was an article that said that Pennywise was graded the best villain of 2017. The best new villain or something in 2017 in terms of because it's an introduction with a new actor and everything like that, or maybe it wasn't new villain, but the best villain of 2017. And I thought about it. You know what's interesting? Oh yeah, Cody is correcting me. He says Jake said I don't like people. They fuck me up. It wasn't adults.
Yeah,
I was thinking it was adults. But with
Cody on point today.
But when it comes to Pennywise, you know, one thing I noticed, I missed it when the movie first came out and stuff. But I was really worried that we were going to end up having this huge internet debate and just culturally thing where he was being compared to Tim Curry. Yeah. And that never happened. Not one time did I see Skarsgård's Pennywise even in close, because I feel like everyone, which is a credit to the filmmakers, I think changing his look a little bit and also just allowing him to have a completely different performance. It made it to where I don't think a single person went there and went, oh, that just it wasn't as good as Tim Curry's. I don't even think anyone that I've talked to ever even considered Tim Curry's next to Bill Skarsgård's. No. I feel like they're just separate entities.
And the one thing I would argue is if anyone ever tried to say, oh, well, Skarsgård was so much better than Curry, I was like, well, yeah, but Curry was handcuffed by a TV rating.
Yeah.
So, I mean, give Curry a hard R, 2017 is going to allow.
Yeah.
Let's see what that motherfucker can do. That dude was rejected for a movie. I can't remember what it was. I read it on the movie subreddit the other day. He was rejected from a role from a horror film because he was just too creepy.
Yeah.
I can't remember what movie it is.
Let's see. And then Sawyer says, yes, they handled it well, especially the coming of age component. Good child actors. Yeah, I think the child actors did great in it. I also think that in a way, I feel like, I won't even say it's a complaint, but one thing I came away from it is honestly, it doesn't feel like a horror movie to me. As a one that's just a huge fan of horror and stuff, because how heavy the coming of age element and the Losers Club and their stuff is, and I guess that's true to the book, because the book isn't. Does the book really feel like a horror book overall, or does it feel like it's these two books that kind of coexist and then overlap at points?
It feels horror-esque to me.
The whole book, because there's so much of the book that's
not the whole book. No,
these huge chunks of the book where you're just you're dealing with them in their childhood. It's things like bullying and acceptance.
The big thing is that it never shies away from that there is a dark cloud hanging over the city. So while there's everyday lives and everything like that, there's always a reminder. There's a poster of Corcoran, or there's Betty Ripson's. They remind him about Betty Ripson's missing and stuff like that. There's always a dark undertone to the book, so that while it's a lighter part of the story, yes, it's the coming of age and everything like that, but it is deep seated in horror. I mean, even the building the dam and everything like that. The cop mentions, don't come down here alone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's definitely elements of more horror-esque.
But even some of that stuff was lost in the movie, to where like I said, when I watched the movie, man, there's part of me, it's this doesn't feel like a full-on horror movie. And that's not, again, it's not a complaint, because I get it, I get what they're doing, and I almost feel like it almost makes this kind of a hybrid movie that I've never really seen before, where one moment you have a 12-foot Pennywise coming out of a screen in the garage, but then the next moment it's just them hanging out, whatever. It's just
Richie playing a freaking what was it, a French tuba, like an idiot.
And again, I
love Richie.
It's not even a complaint. It's just a very bizarre thing where I was talking to someone at work and they were just talking about how either I think it was someone they knew that just hated horror movies. I'm like, tell them to watch it, because it is not a freaking horror movie. There are horror elements to it, but it is not a horror movie. And that's when it really started to come clear in my mind. It's this is not a horror movie, man. Sawyer
just nailed it on the head. Felt more like Stand By Me.
Yeah. And he says, which is a great thing, and that's true. And it was just where like it didn't feel like, because like I feel like what you're saying with the book, like some of like the overall menace and malice of the town, things like don't go along. Like I feel like they nailed some of it in the movie, but like it felt like it was during its moments. Like okay, the people seeing Ben getting cut into and not reacting, but you don't get like the cop telling him not to go down there alone, never be like I feel like they could have stressed some of the stuff more to make it more terrifying.
One of the things that the book did that the movie didn't, and I think this is going to help you with this, is that the book really easily, very early on, suggested there was something wrong with Derry. It was not a one person that's evil. It's not a killer clown. Yeah. Everyone else is just fine. We started very early on that there are people who do horrible things in this town and then not realize what they were doing. I mean, we get several examples throughout the book where it's there's something wrong with this town,
and even into other books. I mean, 11/22/63 gets into Derry, and
he talks about how horrible
specifically
it is.
Because like, and he mentions about how like as an outsider coming in, how much different the town feels. But and
how they treated him too.
And I feel like with the movie, which is probably maybe to make it better and more clear, I feel like they laser focused it to where like I don't know if the movie portrays it for anything other than Pennywise. That like, I mean, ultimately, of course, we know Pennywise is the reason for the whole town having that cloud over it. But like in the movie, they kind of lost some of that, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, it's definitely one where it didn't feel like a standard horror movie, which almost is a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, horror's been around for heavily in the modern sense, probably since the 1970s is really when you really saw like modern horror movies coming
Halloween,
into place, like,
Jaws.
Yeah, with like your modern take of like even like your Exorcist is in 1973.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you want to get outside of that, you get into like some Hitchcock stuff, which is obviously still horror, but it has a different vibe to it. Maybe Rosemary's Baby would be the launch of it. That was in the early 60s. But like this modern era of horror, like I just feel like this just stands alone from so many of these others. To where it's just like this is
not a monster flick.
Yeah, this is different, and I think that like I said, it's definitely a good thing. But it's just an epiphany I had recently. And then Mark says I enjoyed it a lot, but I thought they mistreated my main man Ben. Let's see. Let's see. I needed to see Ben kick Bowers.
Inner fork.
I'm trying to see. Yeah, I think that like with Ben, I think Ben and Mike were both like not as fleshed out necessarily. And I don't know if they're going to address that in the sequels and have those characters be a little bit maybe a little bit more up front, more in the front, or not, or whether they're just going to kind of be a little bit more focused on the main characters, the more main characters of the Losers Club. Yeah, and then Lydia says Skarsgård pulled off a Heath Ledger with the Joker, so different that there's no comparison. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is that like between the design of the character being so much different than Tim Curry's and also his performance being so different, I don't think I ever saw a single person comparing them unless they were really trying because they were just doing it for the sake of doing it. But I don't think any single person walked out of that going, well, Tim Curry's this, or oh God, that killed Tim Curry's this, blew it out of the water. I just don't think anyone even equated the two. Like they were so different,
Mark just clarified he wanted to see Ben nail Bowers in the balls.
Oh, okay. Well, he did. I
really hope Cody's done walking around Walmart when I say that.
He was the one that did get the really good rock shot on him in the rock fight, though. Ben was the first one because like he said something about Bev, and Ben got all pissed and screamed and threw the rock.
He charged him. He didn't just throw a rock. He charged him.
I'm talking the movie.
Oh, in the movie?
The movie, he's like the one that got the really first good shot on him. So not saying that necessarily takes up for it, but yeah. And then Lydia says Ben and Mike didn't get enough material. It felt more than Sawyer saying it felt more like Stand By Me. And then Lydia makes a good point. The coming of age element of the book has stayed with me far more than the horror elements. And that's an interesting thing. And honestly, I think I might agree in some cases. I mean, there's a few of the horror elements of the book that always stick with me in terms of like they just come to mind randomly. But I will say in general, when I think of the book, I do think more of the Losers Club and their life more than the it stuff.
I always forget.
I don't
forget about some of the aspects of the horror stuff. It comes back to me and it's like, oh, this part. Oh shit.
Like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. But it's like I'll think about things like like them hanging out with the dam and then different things like that. Versus like I'm not sitting there like remembering just randomly like them in the sewer fighting it.
One that gets to me every time and I always forget about it is Bev going back to her house and talking to the old lady that's really Pennywise. And then she gets that freaky accent in the audiobook. It's so creepy. I always forget about that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Chris says the book and the movie felt similar to me. The supernatural horror aspect felt at times a bit too silly to me, but Beverly's father, that's the true horror for me. Yeah, and I think that I would say that might be like one of the spots they did actually kind of portray like the horror outside of Pennywise.
Yeah,
like to show that the town itself might be like like evil almost. Like
they're definitely affected.
It's corrupted. Like that's one of our main I guess avenues into seeing that is Bev's father,
and
because the rest of it is all Pennywise related. Almost everything else in the movie is Pennywise related.
The couple driving past and the balloon popping up in the back of the car when Henry's carving into Ben.
Yeah, and then Chris says also I like the way they suggested that all the adults are affected by it. The car driving by when Ben is carved up, the parents, Henry Bowers, that's all good. Yeah, and Henry, there's Henry's definitely one that he's one though. The question I would say is that with Henry, do you feel that's Pennywise related, or is he just like a sociopath? Like,
oh no, it's Pennywise.
Because like he just seems so off kilter.
The balloon delivering the knife and everything like that.
No, but
kill them all.
But even in the
Henry.
books, like he just seems like as a bully, he seems like a sociopath.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, yeah, a little bit, but he's not going to kill anyone.
Yeah.
And maybe not yet and everything like that. But Pennywise.
But the TV told him to do it. In the movie, kill them all. Yeah, that's And then Mike says Ben kicked Bowers' ass outside the Aladdin as well. Let's see. Dreamcatcher is the same way, Cody says. And then Sawyer says, good call, Chris. The scene that did not touch upon the supernatural worked best for me. This is what King does best in general, is putting finger on things like domestic violence or family dysfunction. Yeah, that's like because that's like the realism of Stephen King. That's so good.
You want to know why that affects more people than like the supernatural Pennywise stuff?
Real.
Because you can experience it yourself. You can picture it happening to you, kind of thing. I'm not going to picture a giant spider coming after me, or a dancing clown waving a kid's arm that he's just been chomping on or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's not really going to happen. Someone completely ignoring me while I'm about to be my throat slit. Yeah. You know what? That happens in the real world. That kind of thing. Domestic abuse and everything like that. Someone hurting my family.
Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of thing. That hits close to home.
Yeah.
That's what affects me. And that, that kind of goes back to the reason why I hated The Mist so much. I have a son. The lady wants to kill the guy's son. I mean, like a blood sacrifice. That gets to me, that kind of thing. That kind of thing will affect you in real life.
And Mark says it here: humans are the real monsters. I think that's
yes.
what, and I know this has been a huge tangent, but hey, it's all a level of the tower. But I think that's what it really comes down to is like what, like I think that's a theme with Stephen King stuff is that it is generally the humans can be bigger monsters, know. And
well, look at the Wolves of the Kala. My favorite book. Who is the biggest monster in that book?
The kid's dad. That's
Slightman.
Yeah,
Slightman the senior is the biggest monster. He's selling kids to have their brains scooped out and become simple and die a horrible death early,
so that he could have his glasses.
And his son's protected.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, good. Cody's home now. Blast it, Cody. Balls.
Yeah. So I think that's definitely one of those where that we do see some of that, but I think that it was really well done though with it. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. I can't I can't wait to delve into some of the like I don't know, the special features. I don't know if there's a commentary, but that'd be really cool too.
Is there?
I don't know.
I don't know. You have it right over there?
Yeah, I don't know if there is. I haven't looked that heavy at it here. Let's see. Pennywise lives. Discover how Bill Skarsgård prepared to be Pennywise. The Losers Club. Get close up a person with the teenage stars of It. Authors for Fear. Stephen King reveals the roots of his best-selling novel. Deleted scenes. 11 deleted or extended scenes from the film. That's all it says. So probably no commentary. There is rumors there's going to be a director's cut coming out in a few months that would have some scenes put back into the film, kind of like Lord of the Rings type thing. And I wonder if we might see like a commentary or something.
Oh yeah.
But let's see. Chris says my daughter, who hasn't seen or read it but heard about the story and is a big Harry Potter fan, said, so is Pennywise just a Bogart? Oh,
so a Bogart since you haven't read Harry Potter, let me help him out, guys. A Bogart is a creature that no one knows what its true form is. What it does is it hides in like dark places, like in cupboards, and one hides in a grandfather clock and stuff like that. What it does is when it's confronted, it'll read your mind and turn into the thing you're most terrified of. And then
That's
it's
I
not
I honestly wonder if what's her name wrote that
J.K. Rowling
with it in mind.
Yeah,
because
Sawyer actually just alluded to that in his comment too. So it's like it's one of those things that if you face it alone, it can absolutely be terrifying. But the best thing, how they counter it is the Boggart, not Pennywise. How they counter it is multiple people getting together, and then what you do is you make it humorous. So like one of the ones is one of the kids that faces it is scared, terrified of a giant spider. So he takes the legs off and makes it just roll around.
Oh, okay.
Oh, like a kid's toy kind of thing.
I bet you that has to come from
it. Has to be
yeah. Because I would say that's the one thing with this movie is I guess we do see more of the transforming than Tim Curry's, but that we still saw him as the clown more than not.
Yeah.
Because I'd say in the book it's close. I think you might see him as not as a clown more than you see him as a clown.
Honestly, you see him way more as the creatures and what people are scared of. Okay, off the top of my head. Creature from the Black Lagoon, werewolf. But
at the same time, Richie was scared of clowns, so that would make sense for the movie's sake.
Yeah.
To make him a clown after him versus was it the Wolfman in the
Wolfman? It's the Wolfman, Bill.
Yeah, but in general, they did at least take on some of the shape shifting stuff from the book more in this new version than Tim Curry's, because Tim Curry's is just pretty much Tim Curry the whole time. Which is, hey, what's more terrifying than Tim Curry? Let's be honest.
There's not much.
Yeah, I mean, even that freaking creepy lady from the what is it, Stanley? With the lady when he's reading the Torah and looks back and the freaking lady's gone out of the picture.
Oh,
yeah, even that that's creepy. But
that was too much. That was way too close to the Conjuring's nun thing.
Yeah, it's still not Tim Curry though. So I think that's gonna pretty much put us right at close time. I know we had a huge tangent there.
Man, we got a lot of tangents. I'm sorry. I let a couple of those away. We got to what, one email?
It's all good. Not maybe one or two. I don't know. Hey, we're gonna keep going. And guess what? And ultimately, though, guys, the other thing I want to throw out there is when it comes to new emails, make sure you guys still send them. I know we got some to go through backlog, but we always want new emails because
always,
new people, introduce yourselves. Go
looking at you, Mark.
Looking at some of the things like favorite character, favorite book. How did you come to the series? Just different questions that we have. But yeah, we want to hear those things. Just new thoughts too. If you guys are longtime listeners and you want to talk about a specific topic in the series as you're reading through it and go, hey, wait, what about this? Definitely send that kind of stuff in, because if you're later in the books than book 2 or 3, it might be a few years till we get to that book. Whatever you're in the middle of.
Chris is leaving.
Oh, Chris, thanks for coming on in. And don't worry, he says hijack in the Dark Tower discussion. No worries on that. Because, yeah, of course, Pennywise has a cousin in the Dark Tower series. So
he sure does.
We can definitely talk about him on occasion. And, yeah, I just think it was definitely one of those big ones. That's one of those ones I think 20 years from now people are still going to be throwing back and watching this movie. So it's kind of cool to talk about.
That cover's so good, too.
Yeah, it's a good one. And yeah, they did a great job with that scene too with Georgie. That was a great one. So yeah, that's but yeah, just go ahead and keep sending emails in. We'll definitely get to them. We'll keep rolling through emails. I mean, some of these are going to sound a little bit out of date. I think at one point, a little bit, and a few emails from now, which might not be till a few episodes. It might be in February by the time we get to it now. Somebody says Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, which we enjoy hearing, but it might be a little bit out of place. But guess what? That's our fault because tangents and stuff. But as long as we have good discussions, I'm all about it. So don't hesitate sending emails in. We want to hear from you guys. We have some really cool plans for this year. I can't wait to hit this year hard with, I don't know, comic books and maybe
the great flag debate of 2018.
Yeah, we'll have a flag debate. So Peter can finally realize why he's wrong and the flag is
wrong. I'm not son of a bitch.
Why Flag is indeed the hero of the story and should be beloved.
Stop it. Hashtag Ted is terrible. 2 for this episode. 3 counting Lydia's.
MOON. That spells flag, sir. So we'll go ahead and get into the close up real quick. If you guys want to find us, you could find us on iTunes. You can stream us on Stitcher. You can find the show notes on look at your notes in your podcast. There's a little thing where I have what we talk about and stuff. Look there for the web address because our website is still down for construction. It won't take as long as the the lot where the rose is at. It won't take that long, but I am kind of learning as I go. I'm kind of teaching myself some stuff as I'm rebuilding the website, so it might take a little bit of time. I apologize about that. I just rushed into doing the website and wasn't super happy with the way it looked and stuff, so I wanted to do something different. And then if you guys want to email us or engage us in social media, Peter can tell you the best way for that.
Best way to reach us is through email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. We also have a Twitter account. It's @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod, which is mainly managed by Tad. I got the Facebook and mine. And then you can also find us on YouTube. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. You can watch old shows and see what Tad's showing me on the screen here in the office, or you can listen live when we go live, like many are today.
Yeah, indeed. And we do want to let's see. Somebody mentioned something. Oh yeah, when it comes to scheduling, that's what I wanted to mention.
Yeah,
so
Mark was asking because he's new.
Scheduling, we're generally every other week, but we will make it better. We failed this time, but we will make a concerted effort to start planning our when we're going to record exact, so that we can have those things given out to you guys more in some advance notice, be it like maybe a week or a few days in advance, so you kind of know when we're going to be recording, so you could join us live. Sometimes we fly by the seat of our pants, so it's not always the easiest for us, but we will make a concerted effort to be better at that this year and coming into 2018. So until next time, when we come back, we will be joining back with Eddie Dean, as he is
my boy.
I'm trying to remember where we at. Has he been arrested yet?
He's about to clear the custom, I remember.
Okay, but is he still? No, he's still in the. He hasn't gone to the shitter yet to get.
Oh no, that's right.
Yeah,
he's got to get off the plane, and then he will do the clearing of the customs ritual.
Yeah, indeed. So we'll be hitting up that next time. And at the time after that, we'll be talking about some Gunslinger Born comic book series.
Yep.
So until next time, as we always say, long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
All right, and everyone in the chat, thanks for joining us. It's been fun, and you guys always liven up the conversation and always give us like different levels to it and different dimensions.
It's so much better when we have a live audience. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. And there may mean more tangents, but I really enjoy it. It's always cool to have you guys, and also for you guys to let us know when we blank on names, like 3 or 4 times.
I know, right? Mike, how the frick did we forget Mike's name?
I haven't read that book in so long.
Shame on you.
Yeah,
shame on you, Tad.
It's been a while, so I haven't. I excuse myself a little bit there,
yeah.
And then the movie, I felt like they end up calling him homeschooled kid a few times, where it's just even in the movie, I don't feel like his name got used as much as some of the other kids. So, so thank you guys. You guys are awesome, and looking forward to this year. So we will see you guys next time on the live stream, and like I said, we will give you a better warning on it in the future. So can't wait to talk to you then.
See you guys.
See you guys.